Your speaker is not working properly. Am I waiting?
Peter, can you hear us? Councilmember Elgabi?
You're muted, but you're giving me a yes. Got it.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I can.
Thank you, Peter. And Joan, you can hear us? Oh, good. Yeah.
Yes, I can. I just wondered, are you waiting for us to sing, Peter and I, before you?
I mean, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll add that to the agenda for next time.
Thank
That's
you.
our call to order. Peter and Joan will be doing a chorus line. Roll call. I'm looking
As
at
a
everyone's
baritone.
faces. Awesome. Yes. Well, Peter's a baritone. I just learned something new today. Looks like everybody's in attendance. Thank you, Tracy. Look how quickly we are moving on to item number 3. Also, a reminder before we do item number 3, for these work sessions, it's our first one really together. I would like, if you feel comfortable, that we use first names and we have more conversational style, right? This is why we're together, to have more dialogue and conversation. Do we all feel comfortable being more casual and conversational in these work sessions and actually using them as a work session?
Absolutely.
I move that we.
Angela? Thank you. Item
So,
number
Leah?
3.
Leah,
Yes, Peter.
on that note, well, so that we don't waste time, I'd like for us to pull item number 4. And there is, I don't know if this is when we do that or we wait until we get there. I just don't want us to waste too much time and get there and have to do this. So how should we do this?
The question, when you say pull it, you want to not talk about it at all? Because
Not tonight, and I have reason why. And I need some clarification. If we pull it, what then when are we going to talk about it?
that would be a question for the council to decide. So we have this on our agenda to talk about the draft letter, to then put it for consideration at a council meeting, Peter. So you don't want to talk about this draft letter at all in a work session.
So that is the question, yes. And that is because it has been alleged, it has been alleged that we talked about this particular issue middle of last year, and then we had a council presentation and then a council deliberation. But it has been alleged that that was not a discussion, was mostly a presentation, but that was not my recollection. So in order to be a fair arbiter, I would like for us to now I don't know, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong. So pull it and then say we're going to give the opportunity for discussion and then I bring it up for a vote. How we do that, I don't know.
Yeah, Karen, I got this. So Peter, valid. What I'm hearing from you is that's at a council meeting. We are at a work session. We are going over the draft letter, and then the next council meeting, it will be put for consideration for public comment for the public, right, where they can talk about it and we have that conversation. So this is to go over the draft here, and then it will be put on consideration at a council meeting for what you're looking for. Does that work?
That'll work, yes, yes.
Thank you, Peter. Great question, and thank you for asking about that.
So, to interrupt, for
You're not
purposes
interrupting.
of clarification, we're discussing that tonight
Correct.
and what it all entails and how it looks, and then that would move forward to
Then council decides.
decide if we want to move forward and put it.
You'll
on
hear
the-
a staff presentation of what's going on, what's proposed, and then council decides if that's what you want.
Thank you.
Can we talk about the elephant in the room?
I just want to get to item number 3, but yeah, that's item number 4. What's the elephant in the room?
that council members have been approached to take an item off of the, agenda for the upcoming council meeting, and I think that's what he's referring to.
Right, I love that. That's still item number 4. So
Okay.
are we requesting to switch 3 and 4?
No, we're gonna be discussing today, I just wanted to.
Yes.
Having discussion today, but what he's been talking about.
Yes.
Yes,
Can you bring that up
yeah,
again
okay,
on item number 4?
I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see no, I saw a hand gesture. I just said 4.
We're talking about number.
Oh, I've already switched it in my head. Hi. Welcome to Tuesday, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so we are back on item number 3. I love the flexibility of this. 2026 Community Development Block Grant Program, and we have some guests from Thurston County with us today. Kelly Adams, what are we doing?
Thank you so much. Today, we're going to talk about the 2026 Community Development Block Grant cycle, and we're also going to talk about some priorities from council. But first, I want to introduce you to our guests who have been very gracious and very patient with educating me on our Community Development Block Grant Program. So Alex and Sharif, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure, thank you, Kelly. I'm Alex Purse. I'm the Affordable Housing Program Manager in the Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention at Thurston County. And this is?
I am Sharif Hossein, Affordable Housing Program Specialist. I've been with the county for about 2 years in the Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention.
I also see Tom Webster online. Can you say hi, Tom?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Tom Webster. I am the Senior Program Manager with Thurston County's Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention.
Wonderful. And I also want to thank staff who have really been a big support to me learning this process, and that's Brad Madrud. I have relied on Brad and his previous work with this process, and Troy, the wind beneath my wings, so that I can answer all questions finance.
Isn't that song in our head?
So on the screen, I put the general definition from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the federal agency that distributes these funds. But what I'd like to do is invite Alex and Sharif to explain in plain talk what community development block grants do.
Great. So Community Development Block Grant, so we call it CDBG. It's really a federal grant used to provide housing, capital improvements, community facility improvements, public infrastructure, economic development, support, project support in low to moderate income neighborhoods or communities. So these funds are really geared towards agencies that are serving low income or moderate income folks, and that means up to 80% of the area median income. So we typically, with Thurston County, we've contracted with agencies like local nonprofits or governments who have facilities or programs, public services that they're providing to specific low mod income groups.
Yeah, so the income definitions are updated by HUD each year, and so that's something we have to work with. There are a lot of compliance requirements, to be honest, about CDBG, a lot of red tape. And so it's important kind of to do some upfront work to try to target specific projects that are going to meet these compliance requirements, ensure that the agencies that are working on these projects have capacity to do so. And so, figuring out and fine tuning kind of an RFP process that enables that to go smoothly is pretty important. And so we've been doing a kind of a 3-year rotation between Lacey, Tumwater, and the South County jurisdictions and unincorporated Thurston County. And then Lacey became their own entitlement community last year. So now we're, per the ILA that was signed last year, Tumwater and the South County jurisdictions are rotating on a 2-year basis.
Thank you. So we'll go over a little bit of that a little bit later, but our 3 goals for tonight is to first collect your guidance on your priorities for 2026 CDBG funding, to get your consent to schedule a meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee in April to hear presentations by applicants, and to schedule the council meeting, the first one in May, I believe that's the 5th, so that we can review and hopefully move the recommendation to move forward. Our folks in Thurston County are on a really tight timeline for this funding, which we'll go over before we're done here. And so pursuant to the ILA that we have with Thurston County, Tumwater shares the CDBG funding on a 2-year rotation with our partners. So in odd years, Thurston County, Tenino, Rainier, Yelm, and Bucota share an allocation. And then in even years, Tumwater takes the allocation. We've received funds in 15, 18, 20, 24, and the city contracts with Thurston County to provide administration of the funds. I want to say the administration goes beyond writing, drafting the RFP and running that process, helping us. Our folks are still helping with us with awards that we did in 2021. So you will see a cost of 20%, and it will look like a lot, but when you look at a whole FTE that's working on these for several years, it makes a little bit more sense. And so on a 2-year cycle, Thurston County issues the RFPs. They're faded. You see, this is what our RFP looks like. In past years, RFPs have prioritized services and affordable housing projects that benefit low and moderate income persons. In 18, 21, and 24, council took a shift, and instead of having that be an open RFP for all categories, the council focused on affordable housing and public services and did not consider applications for public facilities or economic development projects. And so on the fiscal side of the house, we don't ever really know exactly what the exact amount of the CDBG funding will be until Congress passes a final budget. So we're waiting on the U.S. Congress, and then, as I understand it, we're also waiting on the Washington State Department of Commerce. Is that?
No, we get our allocation directly from HUD, but they have, per the regulations, around 60 days time frame before they have to notify us of our grant amount.
Thurston County typically gets notification in May, and then just to give you some context, for program year 2025, it was $919,000. And that was the amount that was actually for programmatic funds. That's the amount without, is that total?
Including ADMA, yeah. Program.
All right. Typically, Thurston County is 20% for admin costs. Up to 15% of the total annual funding may be used for public services. And there are additional rules. This is a federal grant, so there are always additional rules about eligible capital costs. So I wanted to show just a quick breakdown of how this was approached in 2024, the last time when Tumwater had CDBG funding. Are there any items of note here that are interesting or noteworthy from your perspective?
I will just point out that you'll see in the total amount at the bottom is 1.2 million. That was that was the final year of rotation when City of Lacey was included in our rotation. So once the City of Lacey left our urban consortium and became their own entitlement grant, which was last year, that was the first award that we had since their exit. That's why we were receiving, I mean, among some other factors, of course, but that is why there's a significant decrease in funding.
The amount is based on population per capita.
Yeah, and that's
I have
formula.
I have a question. So for economic development activities, are we still going with that for this year? Or, because I'm thinking the ACC, our Chamber of Commerce, to use some of that funding. So are we going to determine the criteria, or are we going with this?
You will, and I'm going to show you.
Okay.
I'm going to make a recommendation.
Kelly, before you do that, we have a question from our city administrator.
I was just curious.
No title, sorry, Paul.
I was just curious for the awards, is there a time limit on how long they can be stretched out? Could it be does it have to be a 1 year? Does it have to be 3 years, 5 years? Or is there any parameters on how the recipients have to then use the funds?
So for public services, they have a year to spend down their funds per HUD requirements for capital projects. 6 years, but they need to provide a public benefit within, I believe it's 5 years, provide a public benefit. So, you know, if you were to use funds to do some sort of property or land acquisition, which is a eligible activity, purchasing land in and of itself does not actually provide a public benefit to low and moderate individuals or communities. There would have to be, you know, something that comes out of that, you know, a public facility, public infrastructure. And so it's important to kind of keep in mind that that national objective, that public good, does need to be met within 5 years, and kind of keep that in mind if there's going to be some sort of phase project.
I'd also like to add that HUD does monitor, well, they check our timeliness, what they call it. We do a timeliness check annually, where they check the balance of what's remaining on our line of credit versus what our total grant amount was. And if we're over 1.5 times our annual grant amount, then we have to have a formal meeting with HUD, or we have to submit a workout plan and show them how we're going to become timely. So there is incentive for us to ensure that the projects that do receive funding are able to spend the funding down, and it's not just sitting on our line of credit. COVID really impacted a lot of things. One of the projects that Kelly mentioned earlier that we're still working on from 2021 is an affordable housing development that really had a lot of impacts from COVID and from just the cost of building, et cetera, et cetera. So it's delayed it substantially. That's not typical. So it's definitely a consideration when projects come to you or to the council to make decisions on what to fund, to consider spend down.
Eileen?
Would there be a way then, for the ones that we granted the last 2 years, to be able to get an update if they've been spent, then will there a report from you?
Yeah, we can provide a report based on that.
Yeah, and then just circling back to the timeliness issue, I believe after, I think, 4 years of being untimely, HUD can actually reduce the grant award that the Thurston County Consortium would receive. So just in terms of kind of safeguarding the long-term health of the, you know, CDBG consortium, just something to keep in mind.
Just a couple slides on process. So after we have this discussion tonight and you choose the parameters, the priorities for what you would like to see in the RFP, our folks here will administer the RFP and the application process. If you choose the RFP for some or all of the funds, and this is just process background, typically we go ahead with the RFP. But what that looks like is you as a council, as a whole, or your committee, traditionally you do this by the Budget and Finance Committee, you would go ahead and review those applications, you get presentations, and those decisions are then validated by the City Council. And then after that recommendation comes from Council, that is then presented to the County Commissioners, and they have the final authority, as Thurston County is the legal entity who receives those grant funding from HUD. And so one important message that I would like to share is we need to make these decisions by late April, early May, in order to be in a timely fashion for all of the activities that need to happen. You all are doing a public comment period. It's 30 days. 30 days. So after that's presented to the commissioners, there is a 30-day period that the county is administering. So the options for this process, and I've highlighted the staff recommendations. This is what we have done in the past, and this ensures a fair process that gives you visibility on the possibilities of projects that you have based on the conditions you offer. And so based on the recommended process, the county would publish the RFP on February 6th. And then tonight, if you would like to identify specific funding priorities to include in the RFP, we're providing those tonight by late January. And then also another decision to make is if services are eligible and up to what percentage, with 15% being the maximum. There are some other options. For example, City Council can decide to make one or more allocations without going through an RFP. I think that means that we have been very intentional and we have come up with a recommendation for a project that is ready to go. And I don't see the city being in that position right now. And then the third option is a combination of the first two options. Did you have any questions on these options? I wanted to pause here.
This is your time, council.
I do. I reached out to you, Kelly, so I appreciate answering this question, but just for clarity, it was concerning to me that it was automatically, the 20% was going over to Thurston County without knowing the overall funds that were being spent. It was just they were gonna take 20%, so 20% of 100 million, or is it 20% of $1 million, or is it 20% of 100,000? I think you've kind of touched on that subject a little bit about why that is and how that is, but if you can elaborate.
Yeah, and this is where I'm going to tag my partner, Troy, to kind of talk about how this comes out at 20%.
Yeah, so federal grants have, as was kind of mentioned, a lot of really strict compliance requirements. One of the allowable things you can do with the federal grant is claim an overhead cost or administrative cost with that. That just recently went from 10% to 15%, and they consider that a de minimis amount because it's a very conservative estimate of knowing that it's probably going to take you a lot more than that, but you can claim that with no supporting documentation, no rate study, nothing. I believe the way Thurston County comes to 20% is they do periodic rate studies of their federal grants and the overhead cost it takes to administer those grants. That allows them to charge that against any grant, not just this one. And so by them doing this work on our behalf, they provide the staff and they do that work. I've been looking at that today, and I don't have specific numbers, but I think it would, the amount of work that they do on this grant is, how to say this nicely, particularly onerous in terms of the requirements. So I took a very quick look and just made some notes. You have some of the things you have to do for this grant. You have to have a 3 to 5 year consolidated plan, very specialized policies, reviews by HUD, like they mentioned, a citizen participation plan, environmental certifications, and policies about Section 3 workers, to name just a few. So it's very specialized knowledge, a lot of requirements. I think the 20%, I wouldn't be against at some point having a grant administrator in the finance department. But to take on this grant, and especially during this time with the things going on at the federal level, right. Grant funds being cut, potentially, just all kinds of risks there. So I'm happy to pay Thurston County 20% to take care of this for us. Yeah.
Troy, could you speak to the liability, the audit liability?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so as part of this administration of the grant, they pay for and receive the audits because they're the lead agency. So we don't, part of that 20% covers the cost of an audit. I can tell you from experience, in addition to just paying the state auditor's office for the audit, that it also takes a lot of staff time to provide all the information to the auditors. So that's another big thing. And then I think Alex mentioned HUD comes in and does additional reviews on top of the audit. So it's a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate the time and clarity and everybody putting the work into it. Because I did ask, like, okay, is this something beneficial for the city? Can we go ahead and take it on? And it is very clear at this point in time that is not a risk that we should be moving forward on. So thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for asking and being interested. So our staff recommendation is, because council has made a commitment to this historically, we'd like to recommend that we go with the approach where we designate 80%, and keep in mind, this is the 80% outside of administrative costs. So designate 80% for, so I think that's a supportive, there's a little Zoom box covering it.
Yeah, you got it.
for support of capital costs associated with the creation of new low-income housing in Tumwater, with a priority on leveraging additional investment in low-income housing. And we say this because we've just gone through our comp plan bit, we've gone through a strategic plan, and it doesn't seem like anything has changed in the hearts of council on the issue. The remainder would be available for eligible capital, so you could still use it for capital, or you could open up that 15% to service expenses. And so I just want to go back to what we're talking about here. So that 15% for public services, and that's the flavor of projects there at the top. And then those capital projects, last time we looked at, it was 65% overall, but that comes out to that 80% of the 80%. Not confusing at all.
I have a question though, Mayor. Can I have a question? So does it have to be tied to housing? Because when I heard economic development activities, I thought about our Tumwater Chamber of Commerce. So can we designate a certain amount to go to our Chamber of Commerce, and does it have to be in housing? Because we're trying to have a working relationship with them, with those small businesses. So
I guess my first filter would be, how would the program at the Chamber of Commerce benefit middle to low income folks?
I don't know.
Okay. And I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we allocate that 15% again to services, if that organization came up with a program that perhaps they partnered with someone else on that would help businesses, that would be, that's what's nice about the RFP, is it encourages creativity in projects and how to help folks. But it really has a really narrow purpose.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And just from the LTAC committee chair, that we've given money to them and they haven't been able to follow through as far as the proposals. They've given us proposals ways they wanted to be able to spend it and haven't been able to. So it has been, I appreciate your wanting to assist them, but it has been a struggle for them. So, and I don't know if that would be eligible too, as far as the county goes, as far as like a public service, like when we're looking and comparing to like senior services or, you know, like Together or something like that. I don't know if they would qualify.
I'd like to say they are on our mind.
Yeah.
So in economic development, we are definitely focused on the chamber and trying to find ways to help.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question.
Yes, council member.
So the 80% for housing, how does that work? Are we then going to give money to a builder or some builders to build low-income housing in Tumwater?
That's a great question. Let's go back to the last round to see some capital projects that we funded in the past. And so there have been some rehabilitation projects. You have consistently funded Homes First projects.
Just a note of clarification, as of right now, CDBG funds cannot be used for construction of new housing. It can be used for land acquisition, rehabilitation of buildings or residential structures, mortgage buy down for first-time home buyers, that kind of thing. But as of right now, based on the current regs, cannot be used for construction of new housing.
Good question, Peter. Thank you, Sharice, for that clarification.
So can I do a follow-up question to Troy? I believe last year we did a CBD on our own, and the entities that we gave money to, we didn't give adequate enough money because we didn't have enough money to give out. We were giving, I think, 2,500, maybe less than that.
Peter,
Can we?
are you talking about community services? That's not
Yes.
community. That's not the community development block grant.
Yeah, I know. What I'm trying to say is, can we identify some entities from that list to give some money to, or allocate money to them, if that's permissible?
I think they could definitely respond to the RFP if they have projects that they think would qualify.
Okay.
Peter, does that
Thank
work?
you. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Any other thoughts? Kelly Adams loves to answer questions. She'll sing her next answer.
I guarantee they're right, but I love it. So this is the schedule that we are looking at for this funding season. And items that are in the darker bluish teal, those are items for us. So this really, it's kind of evidence. You can see how much our county friends are working on this, and we just have to make a few decisions. And so the decisions tonight will be discussing priorities if you want to continue with the traditional approach. And then, so in May, we find out what the funding actually is, and in September and October, that is when Thurston County actually executes contracts. And when do you all notify folks whether they have been accepted or not?
We notify folks when, say, September. I mean, we do make a public announcement. Tom, you might want to chime in on this. And we announce these in tandem with our affordable housing correct in June, but it's contingent based on getting an executed grant agreement from HUD, and that typically happens later in September or August.
Yeah, typically, once you make your decision and we develop the annual action plan, that becomes a public document. So it becomes public information in probably early to mid-May after you make your recommendations. We will then put that in a public document that will eventually be going to the Board of County Commissioners for approval. So there is an initial notification to applicants in kind of May with the annual action plan. But a formal notification will go out in September once that annual action plan is approved by HUD. So they will know shortly after you make your decision on your recommendation.
Any questions on this schedule at all? And so this is the last slide. I just want to review the intent of the presentation to make sure to keep us on track. Collecting your guidance and priorities for the 2026 season, and ensuring that the Budget and Finance Committee in April can be dedicated to seeing presentations for CDBG, and making sure that that May 5th meeting is a good time to review the recommendations.
I have a question.
Yes, council member.
So it says that we are collecting guidance tonight, is that it, of our priorities? This is the first.
Yes.
This is the first time we've had this discussion. Are these our priorities in a broad sense, or what?
Yes, it's your.
So
go ahead.
I haven't said anything about or heard anything about priorities until now. And did we just decide what our priorities are?
No, I think, Joan, good question. We've taken from what we've done in the past cycles and the comprehensive plan and those different elements and presented what we have been doing. And so this is the time for all of you to say, right, Angela had a question about economic development. Do you want to adjust? Do you want to adjust the percentages? Like, this is your opportunity to get those thoughts or questions that you have out if you want to adjust anything.
Tonight? Or are we
Tonight, yes.
in another work session? Are we having anything else? I didn't come prepared for this. I didn't read it that way, that I'm going to be deciding percents or priorities or, different groups that might be eligible or that. I thought this was the overview that our assistant administrator has given, not my input as to how we should allocate funding. Maybe I'm just not paying attention. I don't know.
Joan, I wonder if we're not deciding who would get the money.
Right? But are we
We're
just,
just deciding how we would split it up and if we want to do it like we've done in years past.
are we deciding what categories of 80 and 15 and whatever? Are we deciding anything that's going to impact the people who are going to apply, or how they take what?
Yes.
So what they're going to take what we're talking about tonight and decide if their organization fits?
Yes.
Right, we've been doing 80-15, right? And we've been choosing low-income housing. And we're choosing public services at 15%. Are you comfortable continuing with that, or do you want to change?
Well, in light of what was said, I think we need to define what we mean by low-income housing. I mean, people think that that's building it, like Peter said. Is that building new houses? No, that's not what's in here. So just, there might be many people who want to apply that have never applied before. I would read that. New low-income housing in Tumwater, my organization builds houses.
Right, but we would put that in the request for proposal, right? Those
Okay.
requirements, so that you see if they are applicable or not.
Okay, I'm just trying to protect the people who have, as many people as possible have an opportunity, whether it's the 80% or the 15%, they have an opportunity to understand whether their organization or their, gift to the community fits. That's all I'm trying to.
That's perfect. It really is a time, one second, Angela. This is a time to say, if you wanted to change what we have been doing and how we've been providing funds to our community members, this is the time to say, hey, I'd like to try something different. It is okay if you have been comfortable with what we have been doing and how we have been providing funds.
I'm comfortable with it as long as the new low-cost income housing is defined the way that we have been defining it, and it's not building homes.
Yes. Valid, Joan. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good catch.
Mayor?
My name is Leanna.
Yeah, Leanna. For me, I would like to see an increase in public services.
You only go up to 15%.
15% is the max?
Yeah. For public services, yes.
Okay.
So I agree with you, and it's a federal requirement.
All right.
But noted. Doesn't mean we can't work at what that funds look for our community health services, right?
It's the distribution part that we can, when the RFP comes in, we can decide who gets that within that category.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because we know food insecurity is real. A lot of these seniors now, with this home share program, that's increasing, so.
Right, it's having this discussion, right? Knowing the needs, knowing what you're hearing, right? And putting that out there in the request for proposals, right? And who gets to see that, right? So it's not just posting it online, it's the connections and relationships you have saying, hey, this is live. This is live, I need you to apply. So we all need to take initiative of getting people to apply, right? We don't just put it out there and go, I hope they're to do it. You have your relationships to be proactive, to get them to apply. Eileen?
So in addition to so we'll see the presentations as the Budget and Finance Committee, and that's the chairs of the different committees. But it sounds like those who are not part of that would they'll have an opportunity, if you're not a chair, to be able to see, a chance to talk about the numbers, because we won't make the final numbers. The council makes the decision on the amounts that are given to the base. Right.
We recommend, the budget committee recommends, and then council has to review,
has a chance to
and they can
review
adjust.
it. Okay, I just want to be sure that if what she's talking about, that she'll have an opportunity.
Yes.
You're going to be a chair anyway, but still. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an open public meeting. It's recorded. Everyone can watch it. I do want to touch on something really nice that the county does, where you do the workshop.
Bidders conference.
Yep. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Sure, we will hold a bidders conference for all applicants who are interested in applying, to kind of go over the nuances of this grant, and so that they feel prepared to be able to submit an application and understand if their project is eligible and what kind of requirements would come with it if they receive funding. we do.
Then I think we're also going to try to make one-on-one pre-application conferences available to any agencies that want to apply, if they want to kind of think through some of the compliance requirements that may come with a specific project type that they're considering, so that they kind of have a better sense of what's involved as they get ready to apply. So, you know, they're definitely free to reach out, and this will be in the RFP, to reach out to our office to schedule those. And then as part of the process too, we will complete eligibility reviews and risk analyses for all the applications and provide that to you all when you get ready to make any decisions.
Thank you, Sri. That goes back to Joan's comment. So do we have a communications plan for those dates and those options to share with people? So that, can we get a communications plan for how we share that?
Yeah, we'll have to find out, is
Right.
it our staff or the county, and how do we
Right.
coordinate?
But we'll make sure we promote whatever
Yeah.
Thurston County advertises about the workshop and the opportunities.
I would say that those are very, very important, because the bidders gathering comes closer to the end, and any chance an organization gets, whether they've done these before or not, to go and get some of this, you know, sounds like a little bit special meetings to discover how, if they don't, you know, you could go and find out that you thought you could do this and you can't. If you just adjusted a small thing, you could. I mean, these are, I'm so happy to see that these are happening, because they're highly important. I've been on both sides of this. I've been, you know, with an organization that lived off some of these grants and had to apply along the way. And then on this side where you decide. And that's why I'm wanting there to be as much information and as much understanding of how you qualify. And if you have a question about it, ask.
So I did want to say that the county performs that workshop the first week that it's open. So it's not later in the process. So
Right.
speaking to that need,
It's also recorded and we post it on our website too.
On the timeline too, it looks like it's February 10th as the bidder conference, and then the pre-application workshops are the 16th, February 16th to 20th too. So if you're tracking or wanting to share, those are the important dates to share.
Yeah, and also, thank you, Joan, for that. And it also goes back to Peter's comment, like, well, what if I have an idea and I want to track? So it goes back to all of that. So it's great. Kelly, you have your pen up in the air.
I really like your suggestion about doing a comms plan, and I was just wondering, does the county have like a communications toolkit that you already have with, or you can start sharing this on social media, or
We
put
do,
this banner on your website, or?
we do have a communication specialist in our office to help with all of our promotion and working with other jurisdictions that we're working with too. So we can connect her with whoever your communications person is to try to coordinate promotion.
Brandon, you have your finger up.
Just to go back to the funding, I don't see a reason why we would want to reduce the public services. It was kind of talked about. I would be with Angela that I would have liked to seen it raised, but obviously there's the restrictions of that. And looking back at the past ones, what were the biggest barriers to getting funding for certain groups? Is there a way to limit those to make sure that we are getting the funds in the right place and using those to the best overall ability? Making sure that underserved communities that might not normally apply for it know it's there, and is there extra help in getting, especially the smaller places, the funds that they could use?
In terms of, you know, targeting specific communities, I get, you know, it's really on, it comes down to who's going to apply for the RFP, and maybe that, you know, ties back to the communication plan and trying to, you know, ensure that there's broad outreach. You know, one obstacle in terms of public services, at least, is the income eligibility documentation that's required to demonstrate that at least 51% of their beneficiaries are low to moderate income. there's some capacity requirements that kind of come around that. And so I think at the very least, it's probably important for smaller agencies, nonprofits, et cetera, that are considering maybe taking this on to, you know, reach out to our office so that they can kind of think through what might be involved. There's some different methods where, different pathways where an agency can meet those requirements, but it's important to kind of have that conversation early on that they can, you know, consider, you know, sometimes it might require that they establish some MOUs with, you know, maybe school districts or whatnot to be able to make that happen. So just trying to get that conversation and that process early on is probably going to help a lot.
Thank you.
Again, what are your thoughts?
I work in my day job, an organization that has previously received funding, so I will not weigh in on social services, and will recuse myself when the time comes. But what I am curious about that hasn't been covered in depth, and maybe this is a conversation for future economic development, is what can Tumwater do to plan ahead for 2 years from now in terms of if we want to focus on economic development, or if we want to get to a place where maybe there's a piece of land to be acquired, or, you know, like, what do pipelines look like and how can we get there is essentially my question. So I don't know if you guys have worked with other jurisdictions or have examples of what that has looked like in the past, or if we can put that onto a work session in future, or both. I'm very curious and have a lot to learn about economic development.
I think that going into what we talked about earlier, the ILA period goes until 2028 is our next opportunity. 7-8 is our next opportunity to talk about how we work together. And maybe that is a good time as we build up to that, as we do our economic development quarterly reports and have discussions, build up some questions that could feed into a strategy.
Last round, where's Craig Chancellor?
Housing Authority of Thurston County.
We gave a portion of the funds to his group, because what's the housing that,
The second, Sequoia.
Sequoia, so they were looking at doing, Sequoia number 2, and we were.
They're still looking to do that.
Yeah, and we gave them a portion for that, but they weren't able to utilize it, so we ended up getting it back, but that's, something that we were looking at before, and that's just a housing thing that they have, yeah, so I don't know how that factors in, but that was something that we were looking at funding as well, so.
In the RFP, and you know, there's some specific sections on timelines and phased projects so that applicants can kind of think through and provide that information to us and to decision makers in terms of, you know, what a timeline might look like, if it's going to require, you know, additional funding sources, if it might be phased, so that we all can kind of consider that in reviewing a project. If you have, you know, specific projects that you want to, you know, encourage apply, that's, you know, something to maybe discuss with them in terms of, you know, brainstorming or thinking through their application and trying to ensure that timeline and that section of the RFP, you know, they're able to provide kind of thorough information about that. You know, we have done the Taliesin Townhomes, which was up there, has been kind of a phased project. It used home funds through Thurston County for construction, and then used CDBG funds for the mortgage buy down. So, you know, we do have some experience with it, and there are ways to make it work. It's, again, just, you know, requires some intentionality kind of at the beginning of the process to consider the different elements.
I noticed that Tom has his hand up, and I'm wondering, how long has Tom had his hand up? I just noticed it.
Not very long, so thanks. No, I just wanted to respond. I think that comment around planning for, if you're interested in doing economic development projects, to spend some time thinking that through, I think that's an excellent suggestion, and we're certainly happy to kind of engage with you in those conversations. We haven't done a lot of economic development activities with our CDBG funds in the past. We have done some. City of Lacey did a micro enterprise loan with low-income veterans. We have done some micro enterprise small business training activities. So there has been some in the past. They can be a little trickier to make sure that you are serving that low and moderate income population. So they do take some some really kind of intentional thinking through of setting up a program, but we're happy to work with you to kind of put in that time and think through what can be possible if that's something you're interested in.
Megan has a question for you.
Thank you, Tom. Follow-up. I'm newly assigned to RHC and excited about the first meeting tomorrow and have many questions and lots to learn, but I am, my ears perked up when you explained that, when I heard today that there had been blending of funds to cover multiple aspects of project. And I guess one of the things that I would like to know more about is how those projects come to fruition. Like, it seems that we have many bodies doing many amazing things about housing, and it seems that Tumwater has an express priority to support more affordable housing, but I'm trying to understand which levers and how those levers work together. I don't know if you can share any insights about how to use these dollars in coordination with the pipelines for other housing dollars that can be food for thought for us.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm happy to have more conversations with you and excited to have you on the Regional Housing Council. Yeah, I think blending, as Sharif said, these funds cannot be used for new construction of affordable housing, but we have used them to support infrastructure associated with low-income housing developments. So there is a way to kind of mix these in with affordable housing new construction projects. It's tricky, but it can be done. And so most of the affordable housing dollars do go through the Regional Housing Council. The CDBG funds are one pot of money that the county has oversight over that is a little bit separate. But happy to have those kind of continued conversations. And I think thinking through how these funds can support existing programs is great. I'm happy to have those conversations.
Thank you.
Wonderful. If there are no other questions, we don't need action on this item. What we're looking for is just a general consensus that this is the best way to move forward, and we can update you on the progress as the funding season moves through.
Knowing that we take a deeper dive when the ILA is up and all the other stuff, so moving forward this way, knowing that we'll have future conversations. Thank you, Kelly Adams. Now we're on to item 4 that I've made number 3, that's still number 4, and we just finished number 3, and we're now number 4. So Peter, thank you for that question. There's some backstory to that we'll get into, so thank you, Peter, thank you, Angela. Thank you, guests. You're free to stay for this.
Like I won an award.
I know. I love those nuts. I love them. We have a spotted white. I don't have that one. No, I'm focused. Thank you so much. Item number 4, Salish Landing County Amendment Letter. Brad. Yes, would you like me to do it for you?
If you want to see the other slides.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Please.
Let me know if you have any trouble hearing me. I'm struggling with a little bit of a cough right now. This is going to be a very process-heavy presentation, so please interrupt me if you don't understand or have any questions on what we're going through. This is in regard to the Salish Landing County Amendment Letter. A little bit of background. First of all, I want to explain this is one step among many as part of this particular process, and you'll be exposed to this particular project multiple times if things go forward on the county side and so forth. So if you have any questions about what's being proposed, if you have any concerns about what is being proposed or any of that, please feel free to share those with me. If as part of this discussion today, there are particular questions or other things that you would like us to respond to or answer at your scheduled work session, please share those as well. We're more than happy to try to explain as much as we can as part of this process. First of all, want to explain that as part of the 26-27 Thurston County Comprehensive Plan preliminary docket process, the Board of County Commissioners is considering whether to keep the Salish Landing Comprehensive Plan Amendment on their docket. Okay, I'm going to stop for a moment and have somebody to explain what I just said. It's probably, I need to explain a little bit in detail what that actually means. Every jurisdiction that plans under the Growth Management Act is required at a minimum to, at a maximum to amend their comprehensive plan at least once a year. So, for example, the city of Tumwater has an amendment process that we do every year. That's either adjusting any of the comprehensive plan amendments, adopting a new sub-area plan, or anything like that. The county is also under those similar rules, except their process is every 2 years. So what they do is they get either private applications that come in, such as this one that is proposing a change of some kind in zoning or adjustment to urban growth boundary, or there are county projects that are coming forward that are part of it. So this is one of a few that are on that docket. The other thing is the county docket tends to go longer than just the 2-year cycle. And for very complex projects, it could be a while, because what the county does is they use the docket to assign staff resources to evaluate, to prepare all the necessary materials, and in some cases that can take a while, more than a year or two sometimes with all the process. So just as a little bit of background as part of that. So in this particular case, the original application was filed in 21, included in the 22 docket, and again, it was amended in 23, and that was considered again in the 24 docket. So it's been before the county for now 4 years. We have provided our written comments to the county on the various forms of the amendment over the years. Those comments have come either from our office or from the mayor's office. So in this particular case, we are interested because it affects our urban growth area, which is under the county's jurisdiction. So in Thurston County, we have what is known as a joint planning process, meaning that the cities, everything within the city limits is under the jurisdiction of the city. Each of the cities has an urban growth area that is unincorporated, that is intended over the 20-year planning period of the comprehensive plan, be ultimately annexed into the city, provided urban level services, and so forth. It's a transition between the very urban area of the county to the very rural areas of the county that are not part of that process. So because this particular amendment is making an adjustment to the urban growth area for the city, the county commissioners are really looking to the city council and the mayor to say, do you really want this? And to make an expression of, yes, we want to do this. We think it's worthy of further study. And please start the process, because we know, as a lot in the community know, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered as part of this process, but we should start that process. And this is really what this is doing, is let's get this process going so we can answer some of those questions.
Is everyone with Brad right now?
Thank you. All right, just a little
Joan
background.
has, oh, sorry, sorry, Joan. Joan, no. Joan, please.
You're muted.
Thank you, Mayor. All I wanted to say, Brad, is a simple question, I think, or maybe it'll be answered as you go along. Why does the city want to continue this, is what people are asking. Why does the city want to continue this? What is it that we see in it that we, and things that we have to give up, and the environmental impact and all that? Why do we want to do this? Why do we think this is positive for the city of Tumwater? So is that what your presentation is pretty much about, why we want to do it?
Yeah, it touches a bit on that. I think the general explanation comes from, as part of the urban growth area swap, and I'll just go to this next slide here. really, it's a new thing that is the state legislature introduced about 5 years ago as an option. And what it does is it allows the ability for jurisdictions to look at their urban growth area, decide if there are areas within that urban growth area, to be really honest, that aren't going to be developing to urban densities. They're not going to be developing the way that are intended as part of this process, and potentially taking those areas out and swapping them with areas that are more likely to develop. In this particular case, what is being proposed is on the left is an area that is just south of 93rd and just west of Old Highway 99 that is currently zoned 1 unit per 5 acres residential. And the proposal is to bring that into the urban growth area and rezone that to allow for commercial development, allow for a little bit of industrial development, and also allow for some mixed use. So from the perspective of the city, we are looking for opportunities, first of all, to meet the goals and the requirements that have been handed down from the state for us to produce housing units over the next 20 years of more than 9,000, to allow for more than 15,000 new people to live in the city, and also to provide more than 10,000 new jobs over the 20 years. So in our minds, we're looking for, if there are areas in the urban growth area on the staff side that we feel aren't really going to develop, we want to make sure we have something that helps us meet those overall goals. The map on the right shows the area that is proposed to be removed from our urban growth area. This is immediately north of Black Lake. It's on both sides of the Black Lake ditch. The area that is on the western side of that is a lot of steep slopes. The area on the other side of Black Lake Boulevard is encumbered with some wetlands. There are BP power lines that essentially the easements for those don't allow for any kind of development. So we're looking at some acreage that's currently within an urban growth area that, while it may have zoning to allow for development, the likelihood of it ever developing is pretty minimal. So if we're going to make an argument based on what the city has said in terms of its land use and in terms of its housing policies and so forth, that is where we're coming from on the staff side, saying this is worthy of looking at. And I hope that answers your question, Joan.
Some of the people who have talked about this are wondering, what are we talking about? What is on the side that we want to develop? That is this a previous group or company or whatever that has wanted this particular spot of land? For it sounds like, the reason I'm asking that, it sounds like I have read this whole business of kind of creating a village with shopping and all that before. Is this the same? Is this what this is?
That is correct. This is the same general concept that I believe the applicant came to the city council last year and presented what the overall vision of the area was. It is also fairly similar to what has been proposed since they originally provided an application to the county in 21. So this has been out there for a while in various forms, but it's pretty close to what it has been before. Councilmember Jefferson?
Yeah. Could I just say one more thing? The letter that we got from Ms. Norton points out some really important things that I think we talked about before and decided, to still consider this group who wants to do this. And I think it's worthy of all of us looking at what she has to say. Thanks, Brad.
Welcome.
So let me make sure I understand this right in plain English. I'm going to put it where it goes. Stormwater is rapidly growing. Most of the growth is now occurring in the more rural areas of Tumwater. So this is almost like a land swap with the county, where more rural land for what is becoming more urban. so it's almost like a trade. Is that correct, Brad?
That's correct.
Thank you, I got
I think it's also important to talk a little bit about how this fits into the much broader process. I said we're going to get into process, and we're going to get into process, people. Again, I want to suggest that this is very much an approximate timeline, meaning this is my best guess of what may be happening and how the order it may be happening. Now, these dates are merely for reference. A lot of stuff is under the control of various forces. The county, the applicant has things that they need to decide on. All of those things will come into play as part of this process, but this gives you a general idea of what the order of things will be. So on one side, we have under the actions, the Thurston County Comprehensive Plan docketing process. We have the Board of County Commissioners requesting Tumwater's support to keep the Salish Landing Amendment on their docket. We have the letter from the mayor signature expressing the Tumwater's support for the amendment, tonight's work session, the proposed consideration on your meeting on the 3rd. And then we have the Board of County Commissioners who are expected to approve the docket to continue to review the amendment, most likely by March as part of their process. Keeping in mind, there are other things on that docket they're going to be looking at. And really that docket is very similar to the work program that you approved for the long range work group, saying we're going to work on these things over the next year or two. And that's what the docket really essentially says. Independent from that, happening at the state level right now, is legislative action to deal with some aspects of the urban growth area SWAP criteria. In 22 and in 24, the legislature passed two separate bills that affected two separate parts of the RCWs that dealt with land swaps and the criteria that are used to evaluate those. There is some discrepancy between the criteria and a little bit of confusion. And so the legislature is currently actively looking at a new bill that will try to bring those criteria a little closer into alignment. So there's not necessarily that difference, and why do we follow this and not that, and what does that mean? Action, if it is taken by the legislature, will be completed by the end of the short session in March. So that's also part of the process. Moving to the second quarter of this year, provided the county approves the preliminary docket, provided the legislature approves the legislation, the county is expected to continue their review process for the application. Under the county's direction, the Salish Landing applicant is expected to approve the consultant contract to prepare a SEPA environmental impact statement for the amendment. That's important. That's actually being held up because there's a little uncertainty again on the state level, what's being said. It's uncertainty in terms of the docketing. If that's resolved, there's a level of comfort to say we're willing to commit the resources to get this review done. The important part of the SEPA review, it is a very thorough analysis of all the potential impacts for this particular swap. It deals with issues that are important to the city in terms of water and sewer service, transportation impacts, and so forth. It also deals with critical areas and all these other considerations that are under the SEPA umbrella. What that intent of the SEPA EIS is to, first of all, provide that formal environmental review, but also provide a formal way of getting public engagement in the process. Public engages, there has to be responses to the public comments. It's all dealt with as part of that process. It's very structured, but it also is very thorough.
I have a question, Brad.
Yes.
Is there a chance that the legislative action will stop or change the process in the amendment application?
There is the potential for the legislature to take particular action or not take action that could affect this. It is just one of the many parts moving as part of this process. And it's one of the things that I think you correctly identified. We're moving ahead on the docketing process at the very same time we're seeing code changes potentially at the state level. So there is that level of uncertainty as part of that process. I think if there are changes on the legislative side, they will be dealt with as part of the docket review process, meaning that we'll have the ability to say, okay, under this circumstance, under this change, we have to do this. If there's not a change, we have to do this. So it doesn't preclude necessarily our ability to change course or do something else on the city level.
It's always the state level. If the state says no, then it's no. If they say adjust, then we adjust.
Correct.
Joan, I see your hand. We have Eileen, and then we'll get you after
Okay,
Eileen,
thank you.
Joan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clarify then, as part of the action, the SEPA part is automatic. It doesn't have anything to do with the proposed, the Senate bill that's out there right now. It's correct. That
No,
does not-
it may help sort of frame, or when they do the scoping for the EIS, it may help with that process, but it doesn't in itself change the need to go through an EIS. That's the county's decision to do that.
Go ahead, John.
Thank you. Brad, have we had anything that talks about what the, what the critical areas are on this piece of property? Did we ever talk about it before? Is it wetland? Is it, I don't know, the river runs through it? I'm trying to remember this piece.
Yeah, from my memory, it is relatively free of our usual critical areas, meaning that there's limited to no wetlands, no steep slopes. The only issue, and this is part of the state legislative side, is looking at the critical aquifer recharge area. Okay. And just for your information, the critical aquifer recharge area covers almost the entire city, with the exception, I think, of Bush Mountain and part of Tumwater Hill. It as a critical area is handled differently than a wetland or steep slope. In those particular cases, it's pretty incumbent to, first of all, you try to avoid any impacts, you mitigate out the gazoo to try to offset the impacts and so forth. The critical aquifer recharge side of things deals with, yes, you can develop. So that's the first condition, you can develop. However, things that have the potential from that development to affect the aquifer, stormwater being absorbed into the soil, you have an above ground tank with something nasty in it, you have an underground tank that has something you don't want in it. There are very strict rules about those particular things to make sure that a development does not affect the aquifer. But it's not in itself saying thou shalt not build in the aquifer recharge area. So.
But does it not have to do with what you build on them?
That is correct.
Okay. The other quick question that I have is so if they do this, if we, are bent on now doing our rural areas rather than, what we consider building community in closer where people can access things, we have to pay for the city to get out water and sewer, correct?
No, and I'll get to the next part as part of the July. But that's a good question.
Thanks.
So I think we're probably, ready to move on to the third quarter of this year. Again, approximate timeline.
Thanks.
On the county process amendment application, we're expecting a draft SEPA environmental impact statement will be in preparation. There'll be involvement and outreach to not only the city, but also other agencies, as well as the community at large. First of all, in terms of the scoping for what are we looking at, and then as the draft is prepared and released, there's the comments on those and responses to those. On the other side, I'm anticipating that there will be a city and county interlocal agreement that would be needed to establish the process by which the city and the county are going to jointly look at this particular amendment. And I think that's important because it gives the city confidence that something that's happening in our UGA is being reviewed in a particular way, and that the approval process and the responsibilities are spelled out. It also talks about the next phases, which would be annexation ultimately by the city, and on the county side, revenue sharing from that annexation. So an understanding that something that would benefit us would need to be offset by something that could benefit the county. It would also help us deal with public engagement. If there's a process jointly with the county that we work together and we have this one process to deal with this, so people don't have to say, I need to talk to them, oh, wait a minute, I haven't talked to you, go to one place, and then we have that ability, as well as other issues that are identified. We anticipate that we'll be able to start work on that ILA. We have a general idea of the scope, but the actual content of that would be done after the docketing process is done, after the legislation is in place, so we have a better idea of the framework. Also happening in the third quarter is an applicant and developer agreement. I mean, a city applicant developer agreement. And that's important because the applicant has a very specific idea and a concept that they have prepared as part of this application process. However, the docketing process and what is being proposed to be changed is on the very high level. So what we're looking at is a change in zoning from a set of one uses to a set of the other. So it's very broad. It could, if you say it's going to be commercial, it could be a grocery store, it could be almost anything. Same thing with industrial. Development agreement would allow the city and the developer to have greater surety about if this is what is being proposed and if this is what we think is a good thing, that sort of memorializes that. That gives us, you know, that ability to say, yeah, this is what's going to happen. Here's how we're going to do it. It also helps us get at the utility and the transportation improvements needed for that. And that's important because it's not merely the development of this particular property that's being considered, but it's also those properties between that property and our city boundary. We don't have water or sewer, I think, south of 86 on Old Highway 99. We know, because they've been telling us, that the school district has property in that area that is waiting for water and sewer to be served. We also know we have a manufactured home park that is looking to expand, that is currently entirely on septic, that is currently entirely on individual wells, that is a hot spot for our folks concerned about groundwater, that we could deal with as part of this process. So all of that is important because it helps us deal with other issues that we have to come up. Now, in both the case of the interlocal agreement and the developer agreement, those are things that the council will be seeing, discussing at work sessions, and taking action on. So there will be, you know, as we were talking about, opportunities here for the council's input as we're moving through this process, both in the structure of the ILA, both in the structure of the development agreement.
John?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So Brad, the areas that you just talked about the, you know, mobile homes and all of that area, are you talking about the Black Lake area?
No, I'm talking about the area that is actually north of 93rd and that is west of Old Highway 99. Is it Melody Pines?
Yes.
Okay, so Melody Pines is a manufactured home park that has been in existence for a while, that has come to the county saying, we're looking to expand, and they're kind of stymied because they don't have from the area to add wells or to expand their septic systems. So those areas, that's the area that I'm talking about, both the school district property, both Melody Pines and so forth.
Where is the school district property in this annexation?
The school district property is between this particular property and our current city limits. So in my mind, it makes sense to be talking about this together. If we're looking at providing city services for development, let's consider the area that those services will be going through. And that's where I would like to go with this process.
So Sometimes when I'm in this conversation, I know which side of I-5 I'm talking about, and sometimes I don't. All of this talk about this is on the west side of highway, the main highway, I-5.
Yes. So if you look at a map of the entire city, the area that's being proposed to be brought into the city's urban growth area is in the far southeast corner. So it's on Old Highway 99. It is probably as far away from I-5 as you can get in a straight line. And then the area that's proposed for a swap is on the total opposite side, on the northwest side of the city and its urban growth area, on the north end of Black Lake.
Okay. Yeah, I see there. Okay, I had one other question, but it flew out of my mind, so I'll ask it later. I was hung up on my, ability to read maps and know where roads are.
You're not alone, though. You are not alone.
I got lost out. I've gotten lost off in that area before, literally. So I'm, that's a few years ago, but.
So by the fourth quarter, and this is again, my imaginary timeline, Thurston County will be processing the amendment application. I would expect that the draft and the final SEPA EISs will be complete. That county staff will be completing their review of the application. The next step will be a joint meeting with the city and the county planning commissions to discuss the findings of the EIS, discuss the findings of the county, and to hold a public hearing on the application. Now, this will be part of a broader docket discussion. So it'll be one item amongst, I don't know how many that the county may have. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the planning commissions will be issuing a recommendation. My expectation from previous processes where we have done joint planning with the county is that recommendation then will come to the city council. The city council then will have the ability to ask questions, have the ability to take testimony, not a public testimony, we'll be able to hear public comment, and ask questions of the staffs, and if we're possible, try to bring some of the planning commissioners there to help walk them through the process. What ultimately the councils will do as part of this joint planning process, as part of this amendment process, is turn around and offer its own recommendation to the County Board of Commissioners, who makes the final decision of what happens with this particular amendment and anything that happens with the joint plan. Notice I didn't put an end date on this, but there's a lot of things I have tied to my retirement. This is one.
Brad.
So,
I got a question. You give me my cortisol levels are rising.
So the requested action for the council tonight at your work session is to place the Salish Landing County Amendment Letter on your February 3rd consideration calendar. This is a change from what is in the agenda, with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign. So is there any question on what I just presented? Yes.
What would be the downside? Like, what is the other option? We don't go ahead and move forward. It's like, no, this isn't something that we want. What is the negative impact for the city moving forward? Because basically we're taking one piece of land and swapping it for the other. And it seems like the one near Black Lake is a very hard, difficult build site.
Yes.
I've been there. It's down in the valleys, sloped lands, power lines, low probability of building.
Correct.
We'll want to swap that for a higher area, larger chance of building.
Yep.
Did you answer your own question?
I guess.
Well, I appreciate it.
Council, take notes. You ask your questions and then you answer it yourself. Brilliant.
I think he had the information to lead himself to the, thank you.
John, did I hear a vowel come out?
Yeah. A howl? Vowel. No. So, by us doing this, are we still then keeping ourselves in the process of making a decision anywhere along the line that we have decided this is not a good idea? Or are we committed?
Essentially, what we are committing to is we think this is a good idea. We're also saying that we know that there's a process that should be gone through to evaluate that. We don't know the outcome of that process, or more importantly, what that process will be ultimately finding. We have a good idea perhaps, but we don't know for certain. And I think it's important, if the council wants to make a decision, it should be really based on the best available information. And this is the process by which I think we get that.
And along the way, we have, you feel like we have adequate opportunity for the public to weigh in?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm. I think it's very important. I think we're headed in a direction of different ideas here. So.
Correct. Councilmember Kathy, I think it's important. I recognize that this application has provided a lot of public comment, support and against. And it's an important process to go through, but I think it needs to be a thorough process in order to make sure that, as well as we can, answer the questions that people have about the process and the project.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Leila. So from the two presentations that we received last year and from what is being said tonight, I did not see any deviation from what was said before and what is said now. So on that note, if the plan is to then authorize the mayor to send the amendment letter, should we then go ahead and do that now? Because I do not see any opposition from what was said last time and this time around.
I think the issue and the importance of having it go to consideration before the council is that the Board of County Commissioners is looking for a formal action from the council to authorize the mayor to do something. And I think in the commissioners' minds, they need that level of surety to say, yeah, Perlmutter's invested in this. And
right.
We're ready.
I agree with you. We're both on the same page. We're both on the same page. I'm asking the mayor, since I do not see any point now that is different, that we ought to go ahead and do what you're proposing us to do.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. I get what you're saying, and we don't vote in work session. So that's why we're proposing the February 3rd council, because we don't do votes in work session, right? Because we don't allow public comment in a work session.
Correct.
So I'm picking up what you're throwing down. And that's why we're proposing to put this letter on February 3rd, so it has that opportunity for discussion, public comment, and to hear from all the council members and to do the vote, right? So everyone is heard, everyone has their voice.
100%, yes.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Joan. Shall we just go? Let's start. Who wants to start? And we're going to go around. Just what your thoughts with what's the requested action. Angela.
Yes, for something that appears to be kind of contentious, do we owe some additional information to the public on what was discussed? Is that necessary, or are we just going to deal with it at the next city council?
So it would be another presentation, but you're talking more information from 21, 22, 23, 24, 25?
No, just kind of, because when actions like this happen, it's almost like I wasn't aware of it.
So Brad's going to do this presentation. Do you want him to modify what he just presented to you?
Yes, with some background, you know. In 1999, this occurred, and then, just give us a timeline.
Do you want the schematic where it has the larger parcel, Brad, where it has the northwest and the southeast?
Yeah. And show us where the school is at, and show us where that manufactured housing is at. This way, the residents can see, okay, you know what? We are moving in this direction, and this might be a good thing for this land swap.
Yeah,
Good feedback, Angela.
yeah, where the school district property is, and then, yeah, Melody Pines.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Eileen, additional thoughts, comments? Joan, we'll get to you in 1 second after Eileen.
No, I like that idea, what she just said, so we have, or a great map person, just to kind of, because I have a hard time visualizing, and then where this fits in, and, yeah, and then how far down do our services go, as far as, like, where does our...
Where you're saying like 86?
Yeah, see how far down, and what do we have out there right now? Because, like, where's the preserve, and what do we have out there right now, and how far do our services go? So, because I know we're also looking at putting in, we have another, tank that's going in.
That's
3 million gallon tank.
How does that factor, because I think that's gonna be farther down
It will be,
the road.
it will be farther to the west, but the important thing is that anything water line coming down Old Highway 9A will probably be able to provide a loop.
Right,
But that
so
system
how does that, because we're already looking at that, so how does that all tie into what we're already doing there? Because we're already going to do that, so how does this tie into all that we have planned for that area?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get that? Is that
Ties it all up, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Eileen. Joan, you had your hand up, you took your hand down, and now you look deep in thought.
I'm just waiting. I didn't think I need to wave my hand the whole time, but, okay.
So, yeah, if you could just do a little, do a little show there. Yeah, thank you. Joan, please.
Brad, probably in what has just been requested, it'll be there, but I've had several people ask me how far out of quote town, how many miles is this out of town?
Great comment, Joan. With that, can we also do the housing density, right? Like, I've heard there's can we do like the density out there? Can you get a drone, Brad? Fly the drone, and then I want 3D goggles to then simulate. Can you do that by February 3rd? Thank you, okay. Kelly Von Holmes, we're gonna get one. Kelly Von Holmes, we're restricted by FAA because we have an airport in our city.
We're working, that's not going to be ready by next Tuesday, that's all I'm going to say.
Valid question. Kelly Von Holmes.
Thank you, Brad. This was really good information, and I think the little nuances that Angela has suggested will help with the public presentation. I think another thing that might be helpful is understanding where we need to go. I think I heard you mention this morning that we need to build 9,000 homes in the next 10 years.
20.
And 20, well, whatever, close enough. What's 10 years? Don't look at my driver's license. But I'm just saying, we have this land by Black Lake that isn't going to help us with our housing situation. This is an opportunity, it sounds like, if it all works out, for us to build on what we need to build on.
Yep. I'm excited to continue the process and go through it, and it seems like there's a ton of checks and balances in place to make sure that we are protecting our environment and we are growing in the right way. Everything is being done, and it just because if even council decides to move forward with this, there's a lot of processes that still need to be completed to make sure that it's still the overall project that our city wants and that we're moving in the right direction. So thank you, Red. Appreciate it.
FIFA is so fun. Just wait.
She's not. She's joking. Megan, bring us home.
Thank you, Brad, for all this information. Thank you, Angela, for those additions. I really appreciated them. And the only thing that you didn't mention that was in my dream list for that is a very brief summary of what were the letters that the city wrote in the 3 instances that the city wrote, so that people don't have to go back and find each individual letter and read it.
Yeah, like we've been seeing Peter looking back of what we've done. So yeah, great point.
Because I think that would help people get the summary of, in this year it was this thing, or the 3 letters basically all said the same thing, something like that. Would be useful.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brad works 24 hours a day. Prepares that for next Tuesday. We hear public comment, we get this on consideration, and then council chooses to make a motion, second it, have a discussion, and vote. Is everyone comfortable with that? Okay. Brad, do you have what you need? Thank you so much. Noting the time, I lost my bet to end in 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's okay, we'll just blame Paul. Mayor, city administrators report. I have noted, I've noted that we had an all-staff today, our first one. We had, who is in attendance besides our staff? We had Eileen Swarthouse, we had Kelly Von Holtz, we had Brandon Whedon, and we had Megan Sullivan. That's a good turnout.
It was great.
That's the update. So we'll just build from there, right? So we presented, we shared, getting to know, and we build on that. That's mine. Did you want to add to that, or do you want to do action days?
Sure, I can do that. And just say it was a great opportunity. The staff had the chance to submit questions in advance. There were so many questions, we couldn't get to all of them, but we
could have if someone didn't.
I was a little I am chatty, sorry. Although it's not my fault that we're at an hour.
That is also valid.
But it might be, it might take us a little longer now.
How long have you two been married? You sound like a married couple already.
I'll just add, we'll be answering the rest of the questions and communicating that out to staff, and then I'll also be sharing that. So you'll see some of the questions and responses, at least the ones we weren't able to answer. Last week on Thursday and Friday, Councilmember Swarthout and Mayor Pro Tem Von Holtz, and the mayor and I, as well as Kelly Adams and Brad. Am I missing anybody? Attended.
I was also there.
I said the mayor.
I hear that.
Attended City Action Days, hosted by AWC. It was a mix of meeting with our local delegation from the 22nd District, as well as having some training hosted by the Association of Washington Cities. I've sat in on a lot of legislative meetings throughout my career, and I can say we're very lucky to be represented by Senator Bateman and Representative Parsley and Representative Dolio. They all were really familiar with our legislative priorities and were supportive, and I think are great partners to the community of Tumwater. So I just wanted to express appreciation to our delegation, and also it was a privilege and lots of fun to advocate with those of you that were able to attend.
Yeah. Anything else? Not looking at any of your faces. No more business. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Joan.